Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, I'm discussing my thoughts on episode 6 of the anime series恋は雨上がりのように, or Love is Like After the Rain. And this was a really enjoyable episode for me. Very sort of contemplative and introspective in places, and very sort of literally understated as well. I mean, there are entire swaths of this episode that have no dialogue. It's just melodic music overplaying scenes, and some of these scenes are reflective on the part of Tachibana's friend Haruka, which, answering to that, was kind of giving me something I didn't even know I wanted. I felt very bad for Haruka in her previous encounters, as we've seen in the show with Tachibana, where Tachibana would snap at her, being sort of preoccupied with her lack of capacity, being able to partake in the track and field running anymore, but then also the extension of having an infatuation growingly for Mr. Kondo and wanting to keep that under wraps, try to keep that to herself, not wanting to have that embarrassingly come out and such like that. And so I had felt bad for Haruka, and it kind of caught me off guard. It was completely unexpected to me that we would actually focus on her character and focus on their relationship, the foundations of that, calling back to years ago. And for a time they would split ways, part ways, and then they would come back together in high school. And I think on Haruka's part, she is very sort of melancholic and remorseful about the divide that's grown between them. To her estimation, I think Tachibana has become a friend forever out of her reach at that point. And she wants to sort of build up the courage within herself to reconnect and be able to have that friendship again, that relationship again. And so we see her encountering Tachibana out and about. She's looking at books in a bookstore, and later she's at one of those gashapon machines trying to get a little keychain. It's supposed to, you say your wish or whatever, and it brings you closer to the one you're infatuated with, such like that. And it's the mystery one, so she can't get it, whatever. But I really love that Haruka, she was seeking any opportunity she could find, and she uses that opportunity to sort of, extend an olive branch toward Tachibana again. And later they really pick up with this beautiful sort of soliloquy where while Tachibana is at a bus stop in the sweltering heat, here Haruka calls down from above saying, "Here, catch this." And she went out of her way to get that mystery keychain piece for her. And the note included with it is, our friendship isn't just about the track and field running, right? And I really love that. I really love the idea that, her most tried and true friends are still going to be there for her, even as she grows and evolves. And, she thinks somewhat speciously that if she focuses herself on Kondo, that's all her focus can be, And so I really felt for Haruka. They really made me feel for her character that much more, and to see the heartening friendship, the compassion, and that relationship that Haruka so wanted to still reclaim and didn't want to see lost. Like so many times recollecting back where they were running as kids, and Tachibana would be forever ahead of her, just outrunning her and everything like that. You could say instilling the passion for running within Haruka is what Tachibana is responsible for. And so they had this really closely knit, passion together, and now that Tachibana has fallen out of that, they've just kind of fallen out with their friendship for a time. And I really, really appreciated their making amends of a sort. And I would really love from this point on, as the show continues, I'd love to see them interacting more, and maybe, hopefully, Tachibana could get over this crutch of her own remorse, her own sadness for not being able to answer to running anymore because of her injury and such. And that introspective quality sort of plays into, as the episode goes on, Tachibana catching up with Kondo, who is in a library, all too conveniently the closest library to where Tachibana lives, because of his passion for reading, for literature. This is something she wants to pursue as an extension of her infatuation with him. And so running into him, she's asking, do you have recommendations? Is there anything you would recommend that you think I should definitely read? And it is beginning to overstay its welcome, his self-doubts and everything like that. Like, I understand it. And I felt it myself. Perfectly reasoned in my thinking sometimes, well, I really don't have anything to offer anybody. I'm never going to meet anybody, that kind of thing. We all feel those things. For his part, because of how old he is, and because his marriage had fallen apart, and there's so much of his life, he feels like his life is all but over. He doesn't have anything to offer up to anyone anymore, especially a young woman like Tachibana. He's self-defeating in the idea, like later he starts to grow that awareness, like, oh, maybe she was asking because it was an extension of her wanting to get to know me more, the kinds of things I like. Maybe that's what her interest was. But then he's like, oh shucks, nah, that can't be it. I'm just trying to build up my confidence. I'm kidding myself. And it's like, as someone who's been there, and as someone who has encountered a lot of other people who have been there is a time where that self-defeatist self-hate becomes just annoying and frustrating. And it's like, oh my God, grow a sack already. And, I was finding just fleetingly that was how I was reacting to, Kondo's self-doubts in that frame of reference. Because that's exactly why Tachibana is there. She wants to start to understand and wrap her mind around the kinds of things that he has a passion for. She wants to find something relatable that she can attach on to do with her, relationship unfolding as it is with him, whatever that's going to be, however that's going to develop, whether they're just going to become close friends or actually romantically involved. Her interest is truly to do with whatever interests him. She wants to know. She wants to get to know him. And I love how that overhanging sort of phrase about, maybe you were called here by a book in particular that you were meant to check out, that you were meant to borrow, that for some reason speaks to something unspoken that you haven't even really, considered for yourself. And, he ends up finding a book toward the end that she'll allow him, since she has the library card, she'll let him take home with him. And I'm not entirely sure what the meaning of the book that he checked out, what that meaning holds for him. He seems very melancholic himself after the fact, and it seems like something is concerning to him or bothering him. Like, is this going to be the author is his estranged wife, or is this going to be a book that meant a lot to him in his youth, and once again he's recollecting back to his youth and thinking, oh, I don't have anything to offer anymore as I once did. And I don't know exactly, but Tachibana was picking up on it. She perceived it definitely, and of course it's left unspoken as to what exactly it is about this book. The idea of like gazing out a window or whatever like that, as you saw on the cover. I mean, it could be something recollecting back to the memories he had when he went on his first sort of pseudo date with Tachibana, where they were in the restaurant. He was so happy and relieved that she didn't hate him, that she actually liked him, before he understood how deeply that liking him went. And he like bought her a parfait and all this kind of stuff out of his excitement. In those moments as well, he was talking about, a former relationship, something that harkened back to his youth, a window overlooking a horizon or a vista. And maybe it has something to do with that. I don't know. But, that answered directly to his statement. He even said to himself, maybe it was the book there was a book calling to me. In actuality, when I told it, to Tachibana, a book might have been calling to you. But as we find, she also went and got a couple of books, one of which is a photography book of running, something touching back upon that thing that she has lost, that is no longer a part of her life, and that she still has longings for, And I think that could speak to why there was such a division between she and her friend Haruka, because Haruka can still pursue it. Haruka is still pursuing it. She's still very much involved in that. And that's something that Tachibana was passionate toward. And having that removed, taking a big chunk out of her life like that, maybe it's hard for her to be around Haruka, who is so consumed with it, who is so successful and able to keep doing it. That kind of thing. And so this entire episode, the entirety of this episode, it was like, for lack of a better term, and I don't want to overstate, but it felt to me like going to an art museum, and just as soft melodic music plays and there is a silence, and you're just looking at these beautiful works of art and the emotions they instill in you and burgeon in you. you know, whether that's self-reflective or whether those are remorseful regrets or whether that's joy and happiness, fond memories, all of those things, this episode seemed to embody that in the majority for me. It was entirely unexpected. You know, again, the swaths of the episode that went without dialogue and were just music. The recollecting back on Haruka's part to the relationship between she and Tachibana and the focus being put on her at all was a welcome surprise. And of course, we round everything out with, you know, going back on this developing, unfolding relationship between Tachibana and Kondo, whatever that's going to amount to. And so in all of those ways, this was just a pitch-perfect, enjoyable episode to me. A very surprising one in the fact that it was so contemplative and understated, but no less enjoyable. It was a beautiful work of art, this episode, I feel. And so with that, I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of episode 6 of Koiwa Ameagari no Yo ni, or Love is Like After the Rain. If you enjoyed it as much as I did, if you got as much insightful sort of impact out of it as I did, with the characterization, the recollecting back between Haruka and Tachibana, and the developing sort of reforging of that friendship between them, as well as the onward developments of you know, the relationship dynamic as it's playing out between she and Kondo. And if you have any speculations or maybe awareness that I just, you know, am forgetting or missed out on relating to that book that he checked out of the library, what it might have to do with, without posting spoilers, of course, if you're familiar with the source material, which I am not. But yeah, this was just a great episode, and one I really needed to watch after a harrowing couple of days. And that's all I'll say on that. And so as always, I'd love to hear from you. Our POVs can certainly disagree. If you didn't happen to enjoy this episode, if you thought it was slow and boring or anything like that, let me know that in the comments as well. And otherwise, that'll be pretty much it for me on this. Hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.